Okay, my computer shows 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call this City Council study session to order. Let's all stand for the flag salute. It's not listed here, but let's do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And we'll do roll call. I already know that Chuck Owen is out tonight, so for the record, Brendan McGoffin,
Present.
Sarah Diamond,
Present.
Joe Burns,
Present.
Joellen Kesty,
Present.
Glenn Allen,
Present.
and Nick Lavaca.
Present.
Okay, all right. So we have just one item tonight, and that's the Community Development Grant Program, and I see Charlie is online. He's currently in Yakima, so he's joining us via Zoom, but Charlie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Good evening, Council. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a PowerPoint presentation that I put together for this evening. So just bear with me here. I'll share my screen and get this going. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that. Okay. Let me know if you can't, cannot. And
Nope, we're
we'll
good.
get going here.
We're good.
So last meeting, there was some conversation about. You're good? Okay, thank you. Last meeting, there was some conversation about, and the council sent the Community Development Grant Program back to committee. There were some other items that might have landed on this agenda, but for a variety of reasons, we weren't able to get them on. So we thought it might be helpful tonight to just go through a few questions about the Community Development Grant Program to help give the committee more guidance as they start to do additional work on this. And it would also be helpful to staff. So if council is so inclined, we'd like to do that and do it sort of in the form of motions. So if you've had a chance to look at this, I sent this out a couple of days ago, but essentially the first question is, do we want to have a grant program or not? And so if you can motion second and vote it, that would be very helpful so that we know a majority of the council is actually supportive of moving forward before we do a bunch of additional work on it. So that's what we're asking for tonight. Of course, this is always optional for council if this is something you don't want to do. I completely understand, but it's a request we're putting out there tonight to see if we can get a little more clarity on this program so we can rebuild it in a way that getting a little feedback, but see if we can rebuild it in a way that will meet your needs when we bring it back.
All right, so it's quite
with
straightforward.
that,
Yeah.
this is the first question that we put together. And it's literally. Go ahead, Mayor Johnson. Take it from there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, so it is pretty straightforward. It's just a quick question. Just wants to know if you want to move forward with the community grant or not.
I have a quick question because I'd like to know how you're going to define community grant program.
Well, that will come
In
down.
and of the community grant program being, is that are you trying to include individuals, nonprofits, and businesses, or how exactly is that being constructed?
Yeah, that's actually in the body of it. This was sent out to all of you. It's
No,
actually-
I understand. I want Charlie to explain this to us so that we are all clear and on the same page.
Will you-
That will determine my
Yeah,
vote, that's why too I'm wondering.
But
It
you
may
will have
help
the
to run
opportunity.
through all the
Audio's
slides
picking up a little
before
bit on my
you
end, but
before you
yeah,
vote.
there's a string.
So actually, it is, if you want to move forward with the grant, then you have the opportunity to choose whether or not you want it to be available to businesses, yes or no, to nonprofits, yes or no, to individuals, yes or no. Do you want it to be a combined grant, yes or no?
Yeah, it's pretty direct on the questions, which I thought was helpful, but you might just want to run through them if just so people could see the next questions coming down the entire
I
pipe.
just gave you the next questions.
Okay,
So-
well, if you can't do it, that's fine, Charlie.
So I guess the question is, do people really want to move forward with
Yeah,
the
I
grant?
can run through them briefly. So.
Yeah, it's breaking up a lot.
Yeah, it's absolutely breaking up a lot. My apologies for that. I may have to switch over to a different network here, but right now it's working. So yeah, I can run through the questions if you'd like, if that's helpful. I'm sorry if I missed additional conversation, but yeah, essentially it starts out at a high level and then kind of works its way down. As far as I thought would be reasonable and kind of useful for the committee going forward, it just allows us to put some pieces together on it. So, I mean, the question of would you like to have a grant program or not is like a grant program of any form, whether it's just limited to businesses or just limited to nonprofits or whatever it might be. And those questions will follow.
And this was all sent out to you, so you did have the questions ahead of time.
Correct. I appreciate that very much, Charlie. Just for public record, I would like to have it available for discussion as well.
My concern, I understand the questions going forward, like, do you want this or that? I guess it's just that this grant program, if it's what it initially set out to be, then yes, I'm for that, for the cleaning up downtown, giving businesses an opportunity. But if it's turning into an art project, then no, I'm not for that. So I guess the clarification on that as a whole of what it would be, rather than going through the things individually. I mean, because that would just sum it up right there for me. But you can go through it.
I think that, so this is going to go back to the council committees. I think what Charlie's wanting to have here, and I think what's really helpful for me and for our staff, is whether or not you even want to have a grant. If you want to have a grant and then define by whom you want, then it can go back to the committee. The committee can make determination as to what they think would be a good suggestion to come back. Do we do art? Do we do, I don't know, front repair to the storefront? Do we hang lights? What do we do with it? And then you can have discussion regarding that. But we're not going to get into the meat of it tonight. We just want to know.
Okay.
Do you want a grant program? And do you want these individuals and these committees involved?
So, Madam Mayor, if I may. So on that grant program, I personally feel, I think I expressed that last time, like we are spending a lot on a lot of different items right now. I know that the ARPA is for strategic economic development, and so that is part of the businesses down there. At the same time, we have a lot of parks that we're building. We have a lot of roadways we're doing, and which is all very needed and very helpful. The parks, other people might say maybe not as much, but they do benefit the community, but that's all a lot of spending. So after looking into this, I'm wondering if there's a better way to spend that in a larger format. So I would not so much be informed or for that program, if that makes sense. For the grant program, there's got to be a better way for the city to be able to spend. There's 300 total if we put that back as a whole, and if we continue with the grant, it's 140. So there might be other items that as a city we could do to really enhance the city and help businesses or clean up downtown or something.
So if I understand you correctly, I want some clarification here. If I understand you correctly, what you're suggesting is that the council, perhaps at a later date, if there's a project or something that comes forward, would then use the money? So you're not interested in doing the community development grant program right now, is that correct?
That is correct, but I am on the committee, so if it is decided by this body that we do it, I will put my all into it, and I can guarantee you guys that.
Okay, so, all right, so looking at this, does the council want to even move forward with this?
I mean, I'd like to move forward with it, just to have a discussion on what we want to fund. If we want to do just businesses, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, we got,
But I'd
okay.
prefer to get into that discussion rather than just axe it at the beginning.
Madam Mayor, okay, I think we should take a vote on this. I'm not opposed to city beautification, and I don't own a building anymore, but I do have a landmark in Cedar Woolley.
Yeah.
It's called the Condi Clock. It's been there for 120 years. Gee, I'd like $5,000 to repaint it, but you know what? I'm not going to ask for that. Myself or my brothers or brother and sisters can kick in on that. I want something to benefit the whole town, not individual merchants. Thank you.
Okay. So that's input. So we're actually looking for, there are several, did you have a chance to see the questions at all? So we are looking for just yes and no, so we know how to take this back to committee, the council committee. So the first question on the table is, do you want to have a community development grant program? And Charlie asked for a call, a motion.
I'll make a motion that we vote to decide if we should have a community grant program.
Question, Madam
Yeah.
Mayor. Do you want it to go to private businesses or just a city beautification? Are you,
Well, that will.
any restrictions?
That will actually be something that the committee will discuss, and then they will bring it back, and then you have the opportunity at that point to make that determination and discuss how you want to see it go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So if I understand correctly, this is just a vote to, if we go forward with the community grant program. If we don't, we'll use the money in another area of the community to benefit the community as it comes up. So it's this community grant program, should we grant businesses or individuals, which will be decided later if we go forward.
Actually, it's already here. It's giving you the opportunity to see. Yeah.
In this one, if we go forward with this question, if it's an overwhelming no or if it's a no, then obviously we wouldn't need to go into the other questions.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm in favor, I want to at least give it to businesses. So like if we axe out everything else, I'm cool with that. So I want to vote yes on this first one so we can just get into the next questions.
Thank you.
So I make a motion, well, I guess it's already on the table. I guess I second that motion to talk about it.
Okay, so there's been a motion by Councilman Burns, seconded by Councilman McGoffin, to move forward with the community grant program, yet to be defined. Yet to be defined what that's going to look like.
Okay.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye,
Aye.
and opposed, same sign.
No.
Okay, so all in favor with Councilman Lavaca opposed. So the next question then is, should the grant program be available to businesses?
Yes.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to vote yes, that it should be available to businesses.
okay,
I'll second that.
okay. All those in.
Madam Mayor, clarification on that motion then, please.
So it's just real simple. It's just saying, should the grant program be available to businesses? And again, this is something that the committee will talk about and then bring back, and then the council will have that opportunity to kind of define that.
Okay, not necessarily improving their storefronts or any of that?
If that's-
Or
well,
what is it? You know,
yeah.
I want to know what I'm voting on.
Yeah. So it's just a question as to whether or not you want to include businesses, and then you can determine at a later date what you would like to do with that. Where are the boundaries? So we have a motion by Councilman McGoffin, second by Councilman Burns, to have that discussion, that it should be available to the businesses. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign? Okay, the motion carries there. The next question is, should the grant program be available to nonprofits doing community projects? So did you want to include nonprofits in this?
I have a question relating to that. Does the nonprofit then what does it mean by a community project? It couldn't be used for the nonprofit like we were talking about on the exterior or anything like that to beautify? Or are you only saying if they're doing a project in the community, they can have money?
So this is,
Yeah, I can weigh in on that. So yeah, I wrote this, and it's really written generally,
Yeah.
so that a nonprofit could do a project that's in an outward-facing place to benefit the community that, you know, is on the outside of their building or something like that, but also that if a nonprofit wanted to do
so, and just so
a
for
project in the community of some other sort that was part of their mission,
And for-
that would also be something that would be possible.
So, and for clarification, because I know that this was brought up at the last council meeting, and I just want to confirm what I thought I heard you say, Charlie, and that is that this will, when these opportunities are brought forth to use the community grant, the council will have the opportunity to vet it. Is that correct?
The way that we had proposed it previously, and this can change in a variety of, it can go a lot of different directions, however the council wants it to go. Previously, we had recommended we would have 3 council members and 2 community members involved in vetting the projects, but it could be the entire council if that's what the council would like, or it could be some other combination of people.
Okay. So it doesn't get into the specifics, but it does put the say back into your court, or at least into 3 council members' court.
And I think the idea is that this whole thing will go back to the committee to discuss on what was voted to set up new parameters to bring a new or similar resolution to or same thing but modified to the council for official vote.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you
And
were
I
saying.
can just comment on that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is definitely the intent.
Yeah.
And if there's an area that is categorically eliminated, that's very helpful to know, rather than doing a lot of work in that area and finding that the council has no interest in it. So that we're looking for that kind of clarity.
Good, okay. So what is council's pleasure regarding this? Are you wanting to make it available to nonprofits to do community projects?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to make it available for nonprofits.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilwoman Diamond to make the grant available to nonprofits to do community projects. It's seconded by Councilman Burns. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. And then the next one is the availability to individuals doing community projects. Looking for yes or no on this?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion no for the individuals doing community projects.
Okay, all right,
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
okay. So there's a motion by Councilwoman Kesty stating not making the grant available to individuals doing community projects. It was seconded by Councilwoman Diamond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. So motion carries. It would not be available to individuals doing community projects. All in favor with Councilman Burns opposed. Okay. Okay, thank you. And then moving on to, would you like to have a combined grant program? So with that, Charlie, do you want to go into more detail regarding that? Make it a little clearer?
Yeah, there was, I will do my best. There was some discussion at the last meeting about possibly having these grant programs split out. So at this point with the council, in the way that you've given us direction, the question would be in reference to possibly having a separate grant program for businesses versus nonprofits. So that's really what this question gets at, whether we want to have a combined program or a separate program. So this is asking if we want to have a combined program. So basically keep these bundled together, put businesses and nonprofits into the same program. If it's no, then we would split them out.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I guess my question then would be, I mean, in order to determine whether we split them out, we have to know the parameters of what the funds are being used for specifically. I mean, that would be my discussion. So my whole thought process, so people can see and understand where I'm coming from in this, is my thought process on this is coming from business economic development. And these funds are to be used for business economic development within our community. And that, to me, means that goes directly to a business or a nonprofit with the intention of it being a way for them to bring people into town to spend their money to increase tax revenue in town here. Whether that be a business downtown that just hasn't had the know-how or the financial ability to get website development done so that they can advertise for themselves more, do online selling so that they can ship, manufacture or make something here and ship something out, but they don't have a way to do that, setting up a little e-commerce store or whatever that might be. That costs money for businesses to do, and maybe they don't have that. We as a council aren't in their business. We can't tell them how to run their business and what that's going to be. Maybe it's a restaurant that needs some additional tables and seating and some other things that would allow for them to bring more people in to their place of business and allow people to stay longer and to purchase more and to do more. What they choose to do and how they do it would be written within their grant application so that we know how they intend to spend their money. But every single dollar should have and be considered it needing a return on investment. What is the return on investment here? Because this is not free money, this is tax money, regardless of where it came from. It came out of taxpayers' dollars. And so with those taxpayers' dollars, we need to make sure that we're investing them wisely and that money has some sort of return and not a feel-good return, because feel-good returns don't pay the bills. Feel-good returns do not allow for us to fund our fire department in our general fund, which is requiring them to go out to levy, and it's all because that stuff it's not funding itself with the current business that we have here. And so that's not a personal issue. It's not a issue of me not caring for programs or however that might be taken. It's just a matter of fact and a matter of using a business sense and using taxpayers' dollars wisely and coming from business economic development to ensure that we can go back to our taxpayers and tell us that this is what they're used for, this is the returns, and here, this is a fantastic program, this is what the results were. And that's what I have to come back to my constituents and tell them, and what I look at when I'm looking at voting on stuff like this.
Do you want to pull this one for now, then? Do you want to make a motion to pull this one?
Well, my situation my question in this is that if we want to have a divided grant program, then that goes back to the committee to determine what in fact this encompasses. Because the whole process of this situation with where we are right now is because it was brought forward without parameters.
Well, do you want it to be something to be part of the discussion, I guess, is the question here. Do you want it included in with the discussion? Do you want this as a possible?
Other people may have
I
thoughts
think-
on where this is coming from.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
So it definitely sounds like there's some input on that as far as like, okay, strategic planning and economic development, how is it going to best bring in the income back to the city? I guess one question I have, and it's probably going to be Kelly and Josh, or sorry, Charlie, is there a feasibility study that states, okay, if we have $140,000 worth of taxes that are brought in, what kind of tourism, what kind of people coming in, and what kind of money do they have to spend before we get that back? What's the return on that? So if it's 8% tax dollar we get off the restaurants and stuff like that. And so is that a 5-year or a 10-year, which is fine either way, right? So I don't know if there's been any understanding, like on $140,000 worth of taxes of sales, what's the return area on that? And that could be discussed in the meeting as well as like, okay, is this for bringing people in as well as bettering the lives of the residents here, so that as they're here at the parks, which we have a lot of great things going on, they're going to stay more and then be able to enjoy these restaurants with extra seating or better awnings or enjoy their walks downtown or see the sculptures redone or whichever that ends up entailing. So I think that's information to take back to the committee, and right?
Yeah, this is Charlie. We could certainly pull some studies looking at different types of investments for the committee. I think that would be a good place to look. For one example that just comes to mind is I know that street trees, and that's not what we're talking about here, but street trees tend to increase business profits. They've been studied by 15% where they are in front of a business. So there are things like that we can certainly look at and think about, talk about.
Okay, Councilman McGoffin?
I think I would be in favor of just having one program. I think adding multiple programs is going to add complexity and overhead to both staff and council member time. And at the end of the day, it's pulling from the same pool of money. And I think if we could just come up with a very clear parameter set for both businesses and nonprofits, that should do the trick.
Madam Mayor, my only concern is I would like to see the decisions come back to the city council.
Okay.
And I don't know if we need multiple programs, but if that's council's wishes, I'll go with it. But I think it should come back to the council for decisions on where the monies go.
Okay.
So I'll put a motion forward to yes on keeping it, or no on dividing it, and instead to keep both programs together to develop the parameters as one.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so a motion has been made by Councilman Lavaca and seconded by Councilman McGoffin. Opposed to having combined grant program. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. And then the last question, did you want to speak more to this, Charlie?
Yes. So there's been some discussion, at least with businesses, and I think it's been touched on tonight as well, about whether or not businesses could do expenditures with a grant program inside of their business, things that wouldn't necessarily be viewable by the public, passing a business. So looking for some clarity on that. This is a more general question that could apply to nonprofits as well, since we're talking about nonprofits at this point. But just looking for whether the council has a strong feeling on this topic of whether the grant dollars and improvements should be limited to external public-facing improvements only or not.
Okay. Thoughts?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I believe that just so that the public gets a real good view of what's going on with this program, especially when they're seeing their tax dollars go out to businesses, it should be external so that they see what's happening, regardless of if they're patrons of the businesses or not.
Okay. Anyone else? Thoughts?
I would think that's a good statement, to be able to see the money at work. It's hard to see a lot of drywall done in the back room, or creating a conference room, or something like that, or brand-new tables versus older tables. So it's hard to quantify. There would be nice to have metrics along with photos showing, what's happened and how people's have bettered themselves.
All right, thank you. Yes, Councilwoman
When I
Kester?
think of this, I think of, it had been brought up before about one of the businesses, their hood vent was out, which means they had to close their shop down, and no one could come in, spend money. And so if they had that grant and they were able to fix that, they could come in and eat there and make money for us. So I don't know, I see it both ways, but I hate being able to tell a business that you can't apply for this grant to fix that hood that would help you. So I guess I would be opposed to what you guys are saying for that reason.
If I may. So I'm just under the, I would want the businesses to have some financial stability. If they're waiting on a grant in order to reopen with a limited fund, then that could mean that business is going to go out regardless. And that might be money that's not well spent at that point. So if they buy a hood, they go out of business a couple months later because they just can't sustain, they're really tight on their budget, they're having a hard time making payroll, then that hood goes for sale at a lesser discount rated to whoever's going to buy the building, which might remodel and remove it anyways.
Okay. Councilman McGoffin?
I think I would be in support of allowing it both inside and out, mostly because a lot of the buildings downtown are owned by people that don't live here. And I think there's a lot of good businesses that are tenants that could make really good improvements inside to their business, make them more efficient. Maybe they do need to spend a little bit to make more. And I think that's, going back to what Councilwoman Diamond said, is at the end of the day, we're trying to provide economic incentives and increase our ability to do stuff. And sometimes a business just needs that little boost to fix that thing or improve a display inside. At the end of the day, if we're still voting on the final we can always shoot down ones that are to fix a conference room if we don't think that's a good use of taxpayer money. But I think we should keep the scope open for the businesses that need it for the inside.
Okay. So go ahead, Councilman
Sorry,
Allen.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I'm too feeling seriously that if we improve the town externally, it'll bring more people in. It might motivate the people, if their business increases a little, to dump their own money. And quite honestly, if a $5,000 grant is going to keep them open for another 5 years, go fish. I mean, it's just, they have to take part of the responsibility. I think our duty is to make the town look as attractive as possible. I'm off it now.
Nope, very good. All right. Yes, go ahead,
I
Councilman.
was going to make a motion.
Okay.
You're there. I'd like to make a motion that it be limited to external facing improvements only.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilman Burns, seconded by Councilman Allen, to limit it to the external public-facing improvements only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, so let's take a count here then. So I'll just go down the line, just let me know yes or no. So if you agree with it, if you agree that we should limit it to the external public facing only, it would be a yes. So McGoffin?
No.
Okay. Diamond?
No.
Burns?
Yes.
Kesty?
No.
Allen?
Yes.
And Lavaca?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a tie here.
Mayor Johnson, in light of the tie, I would recommend we just keep it open right now to both internal and external. And when Councilmember Owen returns and we have our next conversation, perhaps we'll get more clarity.
That sounds good. We're just taking this to committee to have parameters. So we're not making a final
Exactly.
decision.
Yep, no hard and fast decisions are being made here, just giving the committee some idea of where this discussion should go.
May even open up
Which is
some
very
eyes.
helpful. This has been very helpful. Okay, so, I'm going to say undecided. Okay, so with that, any last thoughts, Charlie?
No, unless the council has more direction you'd like to provide on this. I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to go through this exercise. It's been helpful to me, and it's going to help us, I think, really dial this in going forward.
All right.
Mayor, I had one.
Yes, go ahead.
I kind of liked a comment earlier by Councilman that we do a vote of the whole council on the final projects.
Okay.
I felt
Okay.
like if we're, dedicating these funds, that's something the whole council should vote on.
Okay. So you'd like the whole council to vet it then before it's approved? You do the, yeah, okay.
When we give the,
Okay, to do.
That's a
to do
motion, I'll
the-
second it.
to do the final approval. Well, certainly that's something that I think the three of you, I'm not sure who sits on that.
I sit on that. Yeah, that would be awesome because I think we only have 14 if we're doing 10 grand each. There's a lot of businesses. If we end up, because 5 doesn't do a lot for an awning or whatnot, but it depends. Some might do 5, some might be up to 10, if that's the parameters we have.
Just for clarification, because we keep going back to awnings, but in the city, we are outside of the downtown district, correct? So this expands
it can
to
go anywhere,
anybody
yeah.
within
Yeah.
city limits.
Yeah, yeah. I was just saying, like, for example, like the cost of something small like that could be great. And so sometimes the cost could be great. Yeah, having it go before the council because it's going to be limited, we'll probably get a lot of people applying.
Okay. So this is going to go back to the Business and Economic Development Committee, and they will bring back more of a defined agenda outlook for you, so you can have that discussion and start really refining how you want to see this all work and how you'd like to see it go. Okay. All right. That's it. I hope you all have a good evening. We're adjourned.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
I just saw a blurb, on all the railroad ties.
Mm-hmm.
What, and it says various departments. did anybody authorize it, or did they just bring?
Oh,
those
we are on it, so no, it
I
wasn't,
know
yeah,
you're on
it wasn't authorized at all, and we've given them 30 days to get them cleared off. Yeah, so they'll have to have it cleared by June 1st.
People have been asking.
I bet they've been asking, yeah, I asked the same question, so I can